أندي تومبسون اللي بده يحكي لنا عن كتابه اللي عمله عن celebrating tolerance, religious diversity in the United Arab Emirates. About this book. So, Reverend Andrew Thompson was born in the UK. He studied behavioral science and Islamic communities. He moved to Jordan in 1990 to work with Palestinian youth, and later to Dubai as an Anglican church youth worker. He trained as a Church of England priest in the UK, getting ordained in 2000. Later moving back to the Middle East, to Ras Al Khaimah, Fujairah, and to Kuwait in 2006, where he was the chaplain of local parish of St. Paul in the UAE. In the St. Paul's. In the UAE, he has been pastor of St. Andrew's Church in Abuظbي since 2010 and was awarded the MBE in 2011 for services to human rights and promoting interfaith dialogue between Christian and Muslims. He wrote also Christianity in the UAE and Jesus of Arabia. Welcome.
Thank you.
Ahlan. So we'll begin with the, please, can you tell us about the book, this book, for our audience who have not yet had the pleasure of reading this book? I had the pleasure. It's a very interesting book. Can you give us an idea what it's about?
Thank you very much. Well, the book, basically, we went to each religious community in the United Arab Emirates, and we asked them the question, what is it like to live, work, and worship in the United Arab Emirates? Because many people see the United Arab Emirates as a Muslim country. They're not aware of how diverse the community is here. And they had an amazing story to tell. Decades of enjoying religious freedom in the United Arab Emirates. And so we've got the stories told from the Hindu community, the Buddhist community, the Sikh community, the Muslim community, as well as the Mormon Church and the Egyptian Coptic Orthodox Church, the Roman Catholic Church, and the Jewish community. Many communities live in here. So when you read this book, it's telling their stories of their experience of religious communities in this country.
So you edited the book. Each religion, they wrote their experience. That's how it was. So you started writing this book 2 years ago, long before the Year of Tolerance was announced in the UAE. As a leader of faith, what inspired you to reach out to 9 other faiths and compile this book?
In 2016, the United Arab Emirates created the Ministry of Tolerance. We have never heard of the Ministry of Tolerance before. None of us knew what that meant. And the United States of America, the embassy, decided to bring together all the different religious leaders to talk about how we could support the Ministry of Tolerance. And that night, in the embassy, all the different religious leaders were saying, we don't know what this means, but we know it's a good thing. And as we went round the circle, each community told their story of what it was like to be living and worshipping in this country. And we realized that night that we had a story to tell and a story to share. And we also realized that we wanted to support the United Arab Emirates in their commitment to promoting tolerance between the different religious communities and between all the different types of people who live here. So that night we agreed that we would work together on a project 2 years ago in telling the story. What none of us imagined would be that this book came out in time for the visit of Pope Francis. And Pope Francis was here in February, and we had a big sort of conference with religious leaders and political leaders from all over the world. and this book was gifted to them in preparation for the year of tolerance. It's been an incredible journey. And while I know many, many people in the Christian community, this project has helped me to make friends with people from an even wider, diverse section of the United Arab Emirates. So I now have friends with all of these different communities, and it's been great to learn about their religion, their faith, and what it's like for them living here.
We should mention that the book was forwarded by Sheikh Nahyan Mubarak Al Nahyan. I should have said it before. From my personal experience, I always steer away from conversations about religion, and I know many others who do the same, even though we live in a tolerant community. Why do you think that is the situation?
Well, I think history has showed us that religion can be a topic which causes great division and hatred. And I think it's really important today in our globalized society that we learn to talk about religion with one another in a way that fosters friendship and by asking questions which lead to mutual understanding. Very often in our religious communities we learn how to argue with one another on points of doctrine. And I know that for myself, growing up in my church, people have taught me how to defend my faith against all the others and all the enemy and so on. And it's a terrible way to talk about religion. But I think a really good way to talk about religion is to ask one another questions where we learn of each other's spirituality. And a really good question to ask somebody from another faith is this: what happens when you pray? And when you get a Christian and a Muslim talking about their prayer life, suddenly we realize we have so much more in common. Some of the experiences my Muslim friends when they pray, does God answer your prayer? Have you ever felt the presence of God in the room when you're praying, or in your church, or in your mosque? How does God speak to us? Does he speak through the preacher? Does he speak to us through our sacred scripture? Does he speak to us in our hearts? And so when we start asking questions of one another where we're trying to understand each other's spirituality, then our horizons are really broadened. And when I say, what does your holy book say to me about the environment? What does your holy book teach about gossip? What does your holy book talk about divorce or relationships in marriage, and how does it teach us to relate to our children? These are all human issues in which we can learn from one another. The most important attitude I think we need to be teaching our religious communities is humility. And where we have humility, we will see tolerance flourish and respect.
That's nice. Was there any display of intolerance after this book was published?
Oh my goodness, tolerance is a topical issue. We've seen what happened in Sri Lanka in the last few days. We've seen extreme violence done in the name of religion. We've seen what happened in New Zealand, where the Muslim community was attacked there. Tolerance is the issue of the day. We have over 2/3 of the world community who identify themselves as religious, and if they do not learn how to talk to the other, then we are in trouble. The question is, how do we learn tolerance? Is it something that is caught, or is it something which is taught? The United Arab Emirates has been a really interesting country because for decades it was caught by the example of their religious leaders and their national leaders. Sheikh Zayed, God rest his soul, he lived tolerance, and he was an example to his people on how to be tolerant. But it was caught. He modeled it, he lived it. And what we're realizing now is that tolerance needs to be taught. it seemed to me it's very easy to be intolerant. It almost seemed to be our default mode. You know, it's easy to be unkind and to create division between ourselves. So what the United Arab Emirates is doing today is we're saying, yes, we need to model it so that people will catch the idea of being tolerant, but we also need to make sure we teach it. And that's true for all religious communities. And one of the big challenges for all religious communities is to make sure that religious leaders are being trained on how to be respectful and to be trained and learning about each other's faith so that we can respond to the religious other in a spirit of humility, in a spirit of love, and to be in a spirit of education.
At the beginning of the book, I really appreciated that you wrote the meaning of tolerance in Arabic. It is التسامح, and you told us that in English, tolerance can be sometimes bad. I tolerate the bad behavior of my son. While in Arabic, التسامح, you made it very clear that tolerance in Arabic doesn't have any bad term or idea. That was I like it very much. In your book, you talked about the idea capital, which may emerge in 2050. So you were looking for the future, 2050. You were thinking that we will have an idea capital. Why is this perfectly positioned that Abu Dhabi can become the idea capital?
This is an idea which had come from John Sexton, the New York University president. He's saying, in the future, the world will become more complicated, will become more globalized, and we need capital cities who will model global interaction between one another, to learn one another, and to develop technologically and to develop socially. And so he was looking around the world to where the great urban centers of the global community will develop this spirit of tolerance, this spirit of learning from one another. And he identified Abu Dhabi as one of the world capitals which will promote tolerance, promote new ideas and technology, because over 200 nationalities live here. The first thing that you notice when you come into the United Arab Emirates is you hardly see any conflicts. You know, I come from Birmingham in the UK. You go down the streets of Birmingham after 10 o'clock at night, you will see conflict between the different gangs and the different culture. You don't get that here. You feel safe here. There's no conflict here. There's this harmony of society where people are moving around, engaging with different people without feeling at risk. The United Arab Emirates has somehow found the secret or the ingredient to making that work. And according to John Sexton, that makes Abu Dhabi one of the great platforms for the future and bringing people together.
It was interesting to know that there are 9% of the population in the United Arab Emirates are Christian, 76% are Muslims, and 15% are from different other sects of religions. Let's ask something else. Now, we are in Al-Multaqى. And Al-Multaqى this year, the theme of Al-Multaqى this year is about the third culture. As you know, this refers to children. If anybody doesn't know what's the third culture, it is referred to the children who are raised in a cultural other than their parents or the culture of the country named on their passport for a significant part of their early development years. How do you think these children view religion?
I think, to be honest, children are very disillusioned by religion. They've seen the conflict in this region and back at home, they're struggling to find out how is religion relevant to the world? How does religion bring people together? And what I've noticed in the United Arab Emirates is that religion can be a space for bringing people together. In St. Andrew's Church in Abu Dhabi, we often host the wider community in terms of life events. So, for example, we do funerals. We did a funeral recently for a very famous ornithologist who is very famous in the United Arab Emirates, who's written books about nature and bird life. And part of his work was going way out into the desert, meeting the Bedouin, meeting the tribal Emiratis. And for his funeral in church, all the Emirati tribal desert-dwelling people came to church.
Wow.
To honor his memory. One of the most remarkable experiences of my life as a minister is almost my entire congregation was tribal Emiratis who come out of the desert just to honor their friend. And so we see this space where people are coming together in the name of God to give thanks for life, to celebrate our shared humanity, our shared interest. And we also do other things, of course, like weddings. We bring people together in weddings from all different nationalities and cultures. And in my congregation, which has over 60 different nationalities, we see the children of all these different groups coming together, learning to relate to one another, and learning that when we come together to worship and we come together in God's name, we can create this international interfaith space where we are all united by our belief in the one God who created the heavens and the earth, who loves us, who wants us to worship him and to know him, and who brings us together to be community, to look after one another and be united in our common goal and concern for caring for this wonderful world that God has created for all of us to enjoy.
That's nice. One thing is very interesting in this book that they wrote in 1902 was there was a temple for Hindus in Dubai, and that we have more than 40 churches, 42 churches in the United Arab Emirates, and those things, they were interesting for me. Now another question, because I give some information. You believe that the role of a chaplain in any faith is not just about spiritual needs. Can you tell us more about this thing?
Life is challenging for all of us, and in every country there are people who struggle to make finances meet. In every community we find people struggling with their marriages, struggling with their work. And so religious communities offer support to members of their group to help them just get on with life. Sometimes those situations can be extreme. So, for example, we see victims of human trafficking or sex trafficking, which is a global problem. And they look for people to help them and to support them in their need and in their crisis. And all religious communities have a responsibility to reach out and support the poor, to support the widow, to support the orphan. And so my experience is not unique as a pastor. All my colleagues and all my religious leader friends have all shared similar stories on how people come to them sometimes off the street, and every week we have people coming to us off the street looking for support and help in practical ways. One of the more interesting stories which happened to us in this last 12 months was we came into church one day and we found a lady from Uganda inside the church clinging onto the table and saying, "God help me, God help me, God help me," and she was crying so much, and we didn't know what had happened, and she'd been brought to this country believing she was going to work in a hotel, and then she discovered that this gang were going to sell her to be a prostitute. She managed to escape, she ran away, and the first place she came to was the church. But what really frightened her was this gang said, if you run away, we will use black magic. And they had cut her hair, they had cut her fingernails, and they said, we will use these things to hurt you if you run away. And so her biggest fear was black magic. Now, I'm not afraid of black magic, that's not part of my worldview.
It's very fearful.
So it's a real fear. And so we played with her and we worked with the police. The police were brilliant. The police went to where she'd been held captive. They arrested everybody. But more than that, they found her hair, they found her fingernails, and they brought them back to her so she would have peace, knowing that nobody could do anything to her. That's quite a dramatic story, but it's not unusual. And when I talk to my fellow pastors and when I talk to other religious leaders, they all have similar stories of helping people like that.
And that shows the tolerance in the United Arab Emirates. She's Christian but the police helped her and they knew about her background, that it's black magic is fearful for her, so they got her. That's something we should clap for our police in the United Arab Emirates. Now we have time for questions. If anyone has anything. Otherwise, we will talk about other books. Something very interesting I read about our priest, chaplain, sorry, I don't know. He said that please, can you explain for us that we say priest for our Catholic, what name do we give for each, who we call him priest, what do we call, please? She's asking Madame Asma.
Yeah. A priest is basically someone who is set aside by the church to be their leader and to be the public face of the community. In the church we have many names for our leaders. So we have priest, we have father, we have pastor, padre, canon, reverend. It's very complicated. But a priest is basically someone appointed by the church to lead somebody in their prayers and to lead the community in teaching and to provide pastoral care. So my job is teaching the faith, helping people to live out their faith and being a support in times of need.
But you are a reverend.
Yes, I'm a reverend canon. So a reverend is a title for all priests, and a canon is a rank.
I thought your name, I thought,
oh, it's complicated.
I didn't know about, so you are reverend canon. Yes, I read so. What is this, sorry, but. يعني هو احنا بنقول خوري وبنقول قسيس لتعون البروتستانت، بنقول خوري لعنا للأرثوذكس والكاثوليك، بنقول كاردينال، بنقول البابا لللاتين. فأنا بعرفش بالإنجليزي الفرق بيناتهم. I don't know in English the difference, but I know the names in Arabic.
A canon is a priest who works in a cathedral.
The canon works in a cathedral, while the priest works in a church. Okay. الكاتدرائية هي كتير أكبر من الكنيسة. Yes. الكاتدرائية أكبر من الكنيسة. فاللي بيشتغل بالكاتدرائية يعني مركزه أكبر من اللي بيشتغل بس بكنيسة. فهو كانون، هو بيشتغل بالكاتدرائية. حدا بيحب يسأل سؤال؟ Yes. Jamila, she's Dr. Jamila. You can introduce yourself, Jamila. Something she said. Yes.
Repeat the question.
Yes, I will repeat the question to you.
It's real pleasure to have you with us here today. We are really blessed, and there are like common values among all religions, respect, like faith, patience, being good to oneself and others. What are the real common values you have found between Islam and religion and Christianity, and even between the diversity of your Christianity group? Okay, the book. Yeah.
Yani you want to know what the virtues.
Virtues, and not only virtues, values, because
She wants to know the values between Islam, Christian, and all of sects here. What values in common do you think they have?
Yes.
Thank you very much. That's a great question. All religions teach a variation of what we call the golden rule. So treat others as you would have people treat you. Or the negative version of it, don't treat people how you wouldn't want them to treat you. So one of the common values is a recognition of respect, that we are created in the image of God, that when we mistreat another human being, we are dishonoring the image of God himself. I think the other value we have is family. Most religions teach the importance of family. Most religions teach that one of the ways we find peace, one of the ways in which we are centered and we mature as individuals is making space in our lives for prayer, both as an individual and as a community. And recognizing that there's something so much bigger than us. Religion teaches us that there's more to this life than just ourselves, and that as a community we're constantly reminded to look beyond ourselves to the needs of others. And all religions have a version of that.
So, you have all what?
Correct.
We have all the values like in Islam in every way. It's the family.
One of the most powerful verses in the Holy Quran is when the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is saying to God, God, why are there so many religions in the world? Why couldn't you just make one religion, one Islam, and everybody else be the same? And the reply of God in the Holy Quran is one of the best replies ever. He said, I created different religions so that you can compete with one another in doing good. And I think that's one of the most powerful expressions of interfaith relationship I've ever read. I wish that verse was in the Bible. Yeah. It's a beautiful verse.
There is something I will say before taking the other question, that Reverend Conan Andy said it's easier being a Christian in the United Arab Emirates than it is back in the United Kingdom. It was one of his nice words. It's easy. Why is that? Why is that? Why is it easier to be being a Christian here than being back in the United States?
I can tell you that quote had got me into trouble with my friend back in the United Kingdom. The context for that quote was an hour-long interview with a journalist who was saying, what is it like to be a Christian in the United Arab Emirates? And I was saying, in the United Kingdom, people find it very difficult to talk about religion. A lot of people in the United Kingdom find it very difficult to find the vocabulary to talk about God. And in fact, if you really want to embarrass people in the United Kingdom, talk about God, and they don't know what to do with themselves. But in the United Arab Emirates, people believe in God. And so it's so easy to talk about faith, so easy to talk about religion, and I talk about God all the time with my Muslim neighbors. We believe in the same God who created the heavens and the earth. And so therefore, it is easier to be a Christian in the United Arab Emirates than it is in the UK.
Yeah, it is true. Father, I had the same experience when I was living in France. So anyone can be very criticized in the moment that we have to mention God and any religion that we belong to. For me,
This country is a miracle. I hope I am not exaggerating, but
country is
this
a miracle.
country is a miracle today, a miracle of the 21st century. I am thinking so much how I can address this subject because I would love to hear you. It's the first time that I will make this type of questions because I have a particular opinion about why this wisdom, this state of maximal state of wisdom is here. So I think that we, all of us, I mean foreign people, we have been experimenting real traumatism in terms of intolerance. So we come here somehow heated for different experience because we didn't have the opportunity to live in a safe place all our lives, or to have, let's say, this embracement of leaders that really wants the good for the people. So until we wake up, we have to pass 1, 2, 3 certain years. I have already 5, and we start to realize that this is true. Because at the beginning we don't believe until we are well treated for leaders, not irresponsible politicians, but the opposite. So my particular point that I always reflect, Islam have been teaching us an incredible thing for women who come from liberalist societies. I lived 15 years in one of the capital of the liberalism, which is Paris. And so this is related to how to live sober. I mean, how to live with a kind of high state of sober. How you say
What
sober?
is sober?
To be sober.
Sober. I don't understand. Sober.
One moment. If you give me a moment of tolerance,
Please.
I will find the word. Okay? It's sobria.
Okay.
Sobria.
Sober. It seems it's not English.
Okay. Is sober.
It's French.
S-O-B-E-R. So
Sober. S-B.
No, S-O-B-E-R.
Sober.
Sober, yeah, sober.
Sober.
So the point is that the Islam, for any type of culture, give us an incredible capacity to have our minds clear. How to live in a country that take care a lot of being a part of any type of contamination, neurological contamination. So I want to be more precise and say that other cultures where the excesses of alcohol or drugs are contaminated, actually they contaminate enormously the society, and that's why we leave there that type of violence. So when you see any capital of the world contaminated at that point, and although they are multicultural, they never got that state of wisdom. They never see clear. They are contaminated by that liberalism that gave permission to make men and women wherever they want. So for me, it's a privilege to be here, and I wanted to hear something that is never on the table. Definitely, in my opinion, to be sober, to be outside the dangers of any substance, psychotropical substance to be precise, help humans to elaborate the ideas and to be more humans, to limit the arrogance that we live outside. So what do you think about living healthy, in other words? Because that is one of the topics that help here people to think better, because we live more in healthy.
So your question is, what do you think about living healthy in the United Arab Emirates? I didn't understand the question.
You understood me, Asma, right? No, my question. Then I make the question.
Please make the question clear for me, at least.
I understand your question to refer to well-being. How do you create a society where well-being is a core value? Is that right?
No. Okay, I will more precise, because the reason why I don't go straight to the point is because I don't want you to make any mistake in the subject.
Don't worry,
so
everybody
really,
here
okay. Let's be more
tolerant.
practical.
Yes,
okay,
speak,
exactly.
don't worry.
Other cultures live with any psychotropical substance, damaging psychotropical.
Little bit, slowly. All cultures what?
outside the country,
outside the country,
that
or cultures outside the country
are more liberals.
are more liberal.
They are more liberals, okay?
Yes.
They don't have any restriction.
They don't have any restrictions.
Religions doesn't exactly restrict the woman to, for example, consume, consume psychotropical substance. Women are more free to drink, to have contaminations, as I say, in their minds, okay? So, this is not the case of UAE. Here, the Islam made, fortunately, their people more healthy. Women and men, in general basis, are not allowed to drink. So, in my opinion, this purity, this neurological purity, this being sober, gives the opportunity to develop the ideas of our minds, our projects, in a more efficient way. That is the thing. So my question to the Reverend is, like, I am Catholic, so as I mentioned, I was living 15 years in Paris, so I'm part of that liberalist society. It's a privilege here to have this big learning. And one of the things for me that corrupt the world outside, as I say, it is actually the abuse of all these substances. The fact to talk about tolerance must put together, different topics to make it possible real. So I think that this country is selected for all the reasons that you say to be capital of tolerance. But one thing that help a lot their people is like they live much healthier. They live with this, what I call neurological contamination. What do you think about this, Father?
She thinks here they live more healthier.
So she answered herself, I believe.
She answered herself.
Yes.
Yes. She said,
I think if we believe that we are created by God as human beings, God created us with boundaries and parameters. So for example, if I create a computer and I create software for that computer, I can't do anything to that computer without boundaries. It has to follow certain rules and boundaries in order to function well as a computer. And I think as human beings, if we don't have boundaries and if we are completely free to engage in destructive behavior, then we harm ourselves, because God didn't create us that way. God didn't create us to abuse our bodies. He created us to be in faithful relationship as communities, as families. And when we break those models, we harm ourselves. And that's the way we are created, if we take that theologically. So the theology of creation is, if we follow these rules, then we will find peace with God, we will find harmony between ourselves and our community, and God created us with our limitations. Now, in secular society, they take away that idea to say humans are the master of their universe, and we can do whatever we want. And so if you take their behavior to the natural conclusion, then we are seeing what is happening in the world today. We are seeing a breakdown of families, we're seeing a breakdown of public health, we're seeing a lack of respect for our public institutions like politics, we're seeing a lack of respect for the police, for those who are helping us. And that's because we've taken that conclusion of freedom to its extremity, and that's not the way God has created us. God has created us to operate within certain parameters, and I believe that very much.
Yes. Sadia has a question. Yes.
Now we know that there is a preacher, there is a priest, and there is a cardinal, and there is different status for a male man of God. What about nuns? Is there also like sisters? They are all sisters, but there is also some degrees or levels, or they are all the same?
Nuns. None. What about nuns? Is there? Oh.
I think every religious community needs to take responsibility for teaching our young people and to looking after one another. The danger of being a priest is people say you do all the work. Same for nuns. We see nuns as people who are super holy and they need to do all the work. The truth is, we all have responsibility for passing on the faith, to live in our faith. And what I see in the United Arab Emirates and their commitment to promoting tolerance is an invitation for all of us to join in and teach the values of tolerance, whether you're a priest, a nun, an imam, a banker, a bus driver, doesn't matter. We are all responsible for teaching the values of tolerance. And so the United Arab Emirates simply are saying, come and join us. Come and participate. Let's share the value of tolerance together. They're leading the way.
Thank you, Reverend. Mine is a comment rather than a question. The comment I would like to say is that during the last event in New Zealand, the decision of the Prime Minister was never to mention the name of the perpetrator and to refer to him only as the terrorist. I think this is what we should all do. We stop giving them fame and we celebrate tolerance. We give ourselves names. We give ourselves faces. And we celebrate these books, these events, and people who represent tolerance than giving the other the reason and the benefit to fame and to flourish within our society. If they have no path within us, we will be able to get peace and tolerance among us. So I consider this celebration and this occasion as celebrating people like you, calling for peace and for living together no matter what our faith is.
Thank you very much. Yes, that's a great comment.
Yes.
Faith is about people at the end of the day. You know, when Motivate was designing the cover of this book, we had lots of different ideas about what should be on the front. And so we had ideas of putting the symbols of the different religious faiths on the cover. And in the end, we reminded ourselves, you know, that religion is about people. Faith is about people. Tolerance is about people. And so in the end, Motivate came up with this brilliant cover design. These are real people living in the United Arab Emirates who are representing their communities here. So we've got the Jewish, the Hindus, the Buddhists, the Catholics, the Sikh, the Armenians, all on the front cover reminding us that we are people who share those values. And this is what it looks like.
Yes.
I have one, I think in UAE, Sheikh Nahyan bin Mubarak, he is one of the icon of tolerance. And what he is doing for the society and for everybody here, I think he's the good example. I think should Sheikh Nahyan take a Nobel Prize for how what he's doing. It's really, because what he's doing, a great job, nobody know it. And he didn't mention, he do it from his heart for that. And I think the good example for all the world, Sheikh Nahyan, how he treat people and how appreciate all the religion. I think he's one of the icon for UAE and for all the Arab world also and European. That's first. Second, I'm really glad you are with here and give her a blessing for الملتقى. You are here. I think it's we will put our hand with your hand to make the tolerance in this country and our country to help in everywhere, to give the people the culture. It's one of the tolerance. We don't thinking about religion or political. If we are forget these two, everybody they will be in peace and love and happiness. I think we should all mention that one. Without religion, without political, we will be in peace, I think.
I totally agree.
Yes.
So Sheikh Nahyan bin Mubarak is a friend of mine, and he comes to church at least once a year, and he comes there to encourage us as a Christian community, and he tells us, you know, you Christians, you live in the United Arab Emirates, we are glad you are here. You are part of our country, you are part of our community, and I'm here to tell you that you are welcome. And so, very powerful. And I see Christians in my church crying when he speaks.
Really.
Thank you.